Hello, friends. Welcome to the Ancient Health Podcast, where East meets West. I have the incredible pleasure of having Dr. Levy back here with me. We talked last time. If you caught the podcast before, he really opened up a lot of people's ears and eyes about the strength and effect of things such as vitamin C and glutathione and the nutrients that our bodies are naturally robbed of in our day and our culture today, and how it literally affects the deepest part of ourselves. So, Dr. Levy, thank you so much for joining me back again today.
My pleasure being here, sir.
Before we jumped on here, we were talking about how we had some really great questions, and I was really grateful that you would take the time to talk to us about not just metabolic health, but the way you perceive how our bodies actually got sick over the years in the last podcast. And I want to touch a bit more about that because I think people are really intrigued. And I do want to go over a couple more things though for everybody out there that didn't catch the first podcast. So, Dr. Levy, could you give us maybe a small roundup of what's been going on in your life? I mean, I know you've been hitting a lot of interviews. Has there anything been like exciting been going on, or you've been trying to like lay low, or what's been happening in your world?
Well, the main thing is I completed my move from Puerto Rico to Medellin, Colombia. So I'm now in Colombia. And for those who don't know, forget about Pablo Escobar back in the 1990s. Medellin is just about the most beautiful city on the planet and one of the safest. So I'm having a good time regenerating my energy and preparing for lots of different talks. I'll be headed to Buenos Aires in about 5 days for a big conference there.
Wow, Doc, and it kind of gives me good leeway when you moved to Colombia being the most beautiful area. I've heard that some individuals love cities and towns in countries that are closer to equator because I don't know much about it. I've studied a bit about it, but like they even say like the frequency output of certain cities have a very detrimental effect on the cells, like literally the frequency and the fields given off by electromagnetics. Some cities you may feel sick when you enter. They say that when you get closer to the equator, that actually heals you. And that may not even be the issue here, Doc. I'm just saying, was that any kind of bearing on you, or did you just do it because I just want to get away and just get to a place that's really beautiful?
Well, no, but in point of fact, Medellin is known as the city of eternal spring. It's 65 to 75 degrees year round. Absolutely magnificent. And
Wow.
the whole city is wrapped up with trees and wooded areas. I call it the city in the middle of a forest.
Oh my goodness. Do you feel okay with eternal spring though, Doc? Is the air like pretty crisp and clean down there?
Oh, absolutely. No, marvelous. I mean,
Mm.
I'm a native U.S. citizen, so I can say this. A lot of U.S. citizens are snobs when it comes to anywhere outside of the United States. And these days, the problems we've been having, and I won't even itemize them in our country. Hey, just clean up your own house before start criticizing ones you really know nothing about.
Yeah, yeah. I think that I had friends that lived down in Ecuador and they moved down there for quite a long time. And I went down there many times and they lived down there for almost like 11 or 12 years. And there was always this misconception about what Ecuador is like, or they would say "Well, that part's really third world, but it was beautiful and it was very clean. I mean, they would drink some of the water right out of the well, like it was so clean. And I was really impressed with it. And I think with the types of food too, one of the doctors that was down there, he ran a clinic and he was treating people that had cancerous type activity and different types of metabolic issues. And the food was different. And the food was like the quality was different because there was not so much like pesticides and chemicals. Of course, some countries have that. Is the food quality different down in those type of regions?
Food quality in Colombia, or at least, well, no, throughout Colombia, but I've mainly been in the major cities. No, it's spectacular
Oh
and
man,
a
it's
widely diverse cuisine and everything. I mean, everybody here is super hyper about fresh. You never get anything that's not fresh. So no, it's good. It's good.
oh man. I think this is it's really great, Doc, that you're doing well. And we had such a great combo last time. And you really defined for everybody out there the role of liposomal aspects, whether how it's attached or how we use different nutrients, like a vitamin C, glutathione, vitamin B, to a liposomal basically molecule. One of the questions, and it came about a few of them. They said that when there one person said she was a foodie, like she goes, "I'm a huge foodie,"
Mhm.
and she said, "I would love for you to ask Dr. Levy about liposomal vitamin C and the impact on a person who's carrying a high like ferritin load, like the issues with like vitamin C and iron." And she said, you always hear that vitamin C will make it worse. But is it different with liposomal? So does vitamin C make iron capacity worse, or is liposomal the way to go?
Well, liposomal is the way to go, but it's pretty much of a fiction that vitamin C uh, screws up your iron status. Now,
Mm,
technically speaking, vitamin C, like any other antioxidant, if it donates an electron to ferric ion 3 plus, it turns it into ferrous ion 2 plus. Ferrous ion 2 plus is more absorbable. And that's it. There's no other relation, if you will, between iron and vitamin C than that.
mm,
Also, as with regard to liposomal, what I just said about iron and vitamin C is whether you're just taking regular vitamin C in the gut. With liposomal, it's never reaching there. It's going intact in the liposomal form, absorbed in the gut, into the bloodstream, and then into the cells. So it doesn't even have what I consider to be an inconsequential interaction already with iron in the gut.
mm, mm. So that liposomal vitamin C or the attachment to the liposomal makes it more readily available. And in our culture, in our world, I remember you saying that you can't really find this form like in normal foods. Like we get deprived of it in some ways, but there are some aspects and there's certain foods that could have something that you could be absorbable. But are there certain foods, some people have asked, could you, could you eat enough of a certain food to get the same type of effect of taking a liposomal? Like, because they would say, well, can't I just eat certain foods with high amounts of vitamin C and do the same thing?
Well, practically speaking, no. I mean, the thing is let's say you're already taking regular vitamin C, 8, 9, 10 grams a day,
Hmm.
and you're reaching a bowel tolerance, and you're absorbing maybe 4 or 5 grams of that.
Hmm.
Well, 1 gram of liposome encapsulated vitamin C, because of all the mechanisms involved, gets more vitamin C inside your cells than that oral load you took otherwise. So,
Wow.
I mean, so I say, for all intents and purposes, no. It's just the thing to remember about liposomes. Liposomes accomplish 2 goals.
Hmm.
They get the encapsulated substance inside the cell,
Hmm.
not in the blood, but inside the cell. Okay. So in that regard, it's better than IV vitamin C because IV vitamin C just gets it in the blood.
Wow.
Liposomes go further and get it inside the cell. That's number one.
Hmm.
And number two is liposomes accomplish this without the consumption of energy. Even when you take vitamin C intravenously, all right, the reduced vitamin C that's in the blood, when it reaches the cell, needs an active transport consuming ATP to get inside the cell. So, uh, in everything in biology, everything in health is nutrients
Hmm.
and the energy expended. All right, that's about as basic as you get. If you can get nutrients and minimize your energy expenditure, you're pretty much ahead of the game on all fronts.
Mm. And Doc, what's your favorite? I mean, your magic number of how much liposome vitamin C a person should get in a day? I know we have it in the packets, but what would you tell them, like on the average?
Well, there is no average. I mean, you have a you have a cancer patient, or you have a young person who's athletic.
Mm.
I mean, there's a. I think we've discussed before that all disease is increased oxidative stress,
Mhm.
and which means increased numbers of oxidized biomolecules losing their electrons. And let's just use some silly parameters. One person could have 10 pounds of oxidized biomolecules, and the other person has 2 pounds. So, I mean, the amount of antioxidation you need to
Mm.
reach a good goal of optimal health can range widely, diversity. I don't think we've had a real upper limit on the liposomes like so many things else, though. Most people are limited by their pocketbook if they're taking a humongous amount of anything per day.
Mm.
But for nearly everybody, okay, 1, 2, 3 packets of the liposome products suffices very well.
Wow.
Now, we don't have studies on this, but I can tell you that anecdotally, I've seen situations now where, in addition to other interventions, so I'm not trying to say just liposome vitamin C,
Mhm.
where people with cancer, okay, I say, well, and they say, well, they can't really afford the IV to get it with any sort of frequency. IVs these days, 150 to $400, depending on where you go in the United States. And
Mm.
that might not even be 50 grams. Okay. So, but they know it's good and it is good. And we have the studies that show it's good, but they say, well, what do I do, doc? I can't afford that. I
Mm.
say, well, in my opinion, we don't have the study. I said, but I think you can get a greater impact by taking a half to a whole box of the liposome packets a day, which is 15 to 30. All right.
Mhm.
Which might cost $40, but that would completely replace an IV that would cost 200. And in so doing, because of the mechanisms I just said about how liposomes get the target substance inside the cell, you're really doing something even more efficiently than if you did it intravenously. Now, let me quickly say, I am in no way anti-IV. I mean, I'm very greedy when it comes to health. If I get sick, I want both. All right. But I can't honestly say that I think IV vitamin C is clearly superior. It's a different delivery system. It does different things. Okay. It temporarily gets blood levels much, much higher than you would ever get with any other oral form, which could
Mm.
have specific benefits in one person for another. So, uh, so don't misinterpret me by saying that I think for most purposes,
Mm.
uh, the Live On Lab product. Then I say Live On Lab. Let me qualify quickly. Live On Labs came into being 20 years ago, and they took off like a rocket, and all the other supplement companies got green with it. All right. I mean, generally speaking, no, what most people when they start taking a supplement, we give a new supplement a try. How many buy a second bottle? 15%, 20%. I mean, when people started to live on liposome products, I don't have an exact figure, but the vast majority continue because they feel that much better when they're on it.
Yeah.
But because of this, and because of man being what man is, there's an enormous amount of fraud. They saw the success of Live On, but they had no idea the extent to which Live On went to make its product, quality control, and everything else. And they just started labeling things liposomal encapsulated vitamin C, basically saying, we're going to sell it until they shut us down. And of course, the FTC has a lot on their plate. So most of them just continue to send it out there. So uh,
Mm.
it is, but the reason they get away with it is because they're still giving the vitamin C. So people who have never taken vitamin C before are still going to feel better taking any form. And they'll have no idea how far short they're falling from what they could accomplish if they had a truly quality and legitimately a liposome encapsulated product. And I
Mm.
said the liposome is an artificial cell. It's literally designed that way. It's got a dual bilipid layer around it, just like a regular cell wall. And it was created that way in the 1960s as an experimental artificial cell. But it's basically the same constitution as uh, an exosome. An exosome, though, is much, much smaller than a
Mhm.
liposome, but the liposome is much, much smaller than the cell. So the liposome gets into the cell,
Mhm.
sometimes through pores, and the other rest of the time it goes in through reverse phagocytosis. Remember, I said the cell wall of the cell is the same as the wall of the liposome. So it hits the cell wall, opens up, merges into the cell wall, and deposits the product inside. Really very elegant.
It is it's very, very exquisite how you look at the biochemistry and like the images of like how these things really actually work. And one of the things that people have been asking too after that podcast when we're talking about liposomal is a really big emphasis on longevity. That's where I saw you the first time. I was very honored to meet you in person because we saw the one of the optimization summit, health optimization summit. And I remember when you were talking about creating a longevity within the cell. So the affinity for that liposomal C or liposomal, like if it's glutathione, when it gets to the cell, is there, I know there's studies, we had Live On that did this in the past. They became like the forefront, and they became like a huge impact on people's longevity because you were talking about it years ago. Like you were talking about longevity and how to cause mitochondrial function to increase and heart function to increase. But for everybody out there just listening, just starting with longevity, the benefits of taking these for their cells' mitochondria or the cells to actually keep perpetuating for a longer life?
Sure. The thing to keep in mind, and it's sort of a popular topic these days, anti-aging, etc. But what is aging? Aging
Mm,
is unchecked progressive oxidation in excess of the biomolecules in your cell. Nothing more. That's it.
mm,
Okay. Now, what is your greatest assurance that your cell is functioning normally with only physiological degrees of oxidation versus usually abnormal levels of oxidation is when you can get inside the cytoplasm a normal cellular level, a normal cytoplasmic level of vitamin C. That determines entirely whether your cell is sick or healthy. Have I gotten my vitamin C level inside the cell to a normal level? And
mm,
this is something too, I write about it a lot. I have a new book coming out, and I talk a lot about the fact that uh, there's so many things discovering now that we can augment vitamin C with. And then some people say, well, the point is in order to appreciate uh, the benefits that something does to help vitamin C, you have to fully appreciate the benefits of vitamin C. And these days, mainstream medicine has zero appreciation, and complementary integrative medicine has a limited appreciation. But I say that because, yeah, everybody's, yeah, vitamin C is great. You'll die without it. You'll get scurvy, blah, blah, blah. Sure, but they have no idea that it's the pivotal, most important molecule in your body. And everything you can do that augments vitamin C uptake into the cell, which is magnesium, insulin, cortisol or hydrocortisone, all of these things, the reason those things are good are because they get vitamin C inside the cell and start repairing the chronically oxidized biomolecules, and to a great degree, it can even reverse chronic disease. But it just gets silly when nobody's going to appreciate a great fact about vitamin C until they appreciate how great vitamin C is itself.
mm. And with vitamin C being the single most important molecule, I've heard reports. I know you've talked about these things in the past, Dr. Levy, but even when people have seen with horrible like gallstones, even though it's not necessarily like a treatment, you're seeing, I can see the effects of how vitamin C can help with so many different types of conditions. So
Sure.
when you said what is aging, I love that question. What are the things as it's helping with those oxidants, those things trying to help injure your cells? What are some of the common things that are in our environment that people out there wouldn't even know that's actually causing this high oxidant level, this high rusting internally?
The the answer is cryptic. It's simple and complicated.
Hmm.
The simple answer is the only thing that causes abnormal oxidation is toxins, nothing else.
Nothing else.
Now, we've got hundreds of thousands of millions of toxins. So then you're sitting there saying, well, which one's more toxic than the other? And the thing is the only thing that makes a toxin toxic is its ability to get to a biomolecule, take an electron away from it, and most importantly, never return the electron back into the system. So the
Mm.
toxins are electron robbers. They deplete the electron pool, and it's your electron pool that keeps you alive, with vitamin C continuing to exchange electrons among the healthy body of biomolecules so that you have normal microcurrent flow inside the cell, more normal transmembrane voltages across the cell walls. Those are all quite well studied, especially the voltages, as to how they correlate to a healthy cell. When you get that voltage level down low, you have a sick cell, and you have the sick cell because you have an excess of oxidation compared to it. Now, the thing that probably leaps to some people's mind is, well, uh, if all toxins cause their toxicity by doing the same, how is it that we have so many different diseases caused by different toxins? Well, the damage they do is the same, but their chemical nature is a toxin water side, fat side.
Ah.
Is it electrically charged? Is
Hmm.
it uh, where does it go in the body? Where does it accumulate? Is it easily excreted? Those all determine where the toxin goes and which biomolecules get specifically targeted by that toxin due to the physical and chemical characteristics of the toxin. And it's that unique array of biomolecules, type, concentration, location, function, enzyme, that when you take away that function, you oxidize it, you take away the function, an oxidized biomolecule is just a non-functioning tool inside your body that determines the disease.
Wow. So it doing the same action.
Well, you hear this expression a lot. Oxidative stress causes disease. That's close. Oxidative stress is the disease.
Wow. No, that's profound, Doc. So it is the disease. The
Right.
expression of it is just determined by what area the toxin takes effect on, like where it
Exactly.
goes to.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. That's profound.
And this is why some toxins kill you over 30 years and others kill you in 2 minutes. All right. You absorb mercury or something like that. It poisons a lot of stuff, but not acutely. Gradually accumulates in your brain, and 30, 40 years after you got your amalgam fillings, you got a good case of multiple sclerosis. On the other hand,
Mhm.
you can inhale cyanide. All right.
Yep. Yep.
Not orally, inhale it. But what happens when you inhale it? You immediately gets into the bloodstream around the lungs, hits the respiratory enzymes, and by oxidizing those enzymes, paralyzes them so that they can no longer assimilate oxygen, and you die in a minute or two. The damage done is still the same. It's oxidation.
It's oxidation. And anything that would rob the body of the electrons to help with that is going to give you a disease or some kind of dysfunction. That is
That's
so.
correct.
With this, Doc, we know that like we see the mechanisms in our, we talk about the things that would rob in the world. What would be like some common signs, just maybe some slight signs and signals you would say to a person? Maybe it's one or two, not even that a long list, but that would give them an indication that they are lacking vitamin C. Is there any type of sign and symptoms? Because some people are not going to get tested; they're just going to like live their life. But are there some small signs and signals?
People have a habit, and I'm one of them. I mean, I'm not making myself an exception to the human population, but people have a habit of not only adjusting to what their health and daily life is,
Hmm.
but over time, considering it healthy, considering it normal. Well, I didn't have a headache today, and I had enough energy to go to the supermarket, and I got a good night's sleep. I'm healthy. Wow, not even close. Okay, so point being is, uh, people who have never supplemented vitamin C, for the most part, nearly all of them, I would say,
Hmm.
have no idea what health feels like. They have
Right.
no idea what health feels like, and this also results in something where people have never supplemented vitamin C before. They start supplementing, and then wow, I got pep in my step, my mind's clear, and blah blah blah, and uh, and they develop what I call an increased health intuition. Okay, they elevate themselves to this level. And now they're feeling great every day, and then one day they don't feel bad, but they no longer feel perfect, and they say, "Wow, I'm not clicking on all gears today. Now I'm going to pop and take some extra vitamin C and take care of whatever's challenging."
That's right. It's and when they take this vitamin C, and we'll probably go into like vitamin B in just a second, but when they're starting to use vitamin C, I've noticed that individuals their shine comes back like in their skin. They'll start seeing like those small signs and signals. Like literally their eyes get brighter, their skin starts to make a big change. And one of the things that people say it's just for immune system, but I've literally seen how in individuals literally their eyes get clearer and brighter and their skin just changes. In
Well,
fact, I'm so surprised.
think about this. I mean, in addition to other things, the skin is its organ of excretion as well. So what happens in your bowels if you're not emptying well? Everything becomes toxic. Everything becomes stagnant.
Mhm.
What happens if you're not flushing through your skin on a regular basis? Not only the toxins, but following it with good antioxidants, you're going to have uh, is it? You're going to have a sallow. I mean, you're going to have spots and marks. That's not part of normal aging.
Mm-mm.
That's part of ongoing toxicity that you're just not addressing.
Wow, that is true. And Doc, with this, when we see that ongoing process of aging, there's a big topic, and it's been around for years, but it's getting more and more traction about autoimmune. And when these toxins, is that the issue when autoimmune is showing up? That is because those toxins have been just circulating for a long time. Can you give your synopsis on what autoimmune is?
Sure. Autoimmune and really, everything we talk about, you could go to the literature and you can find thousands of pages with thousands of abbreviations and just make no sense out of anything. Okay. I'm a little cynical about our scientific literature.
Mhm.
But with autoimmune diseases, what is autoimmune? Well, for one thing, the immune system that's not really attacking itself. They got some crazy ideas about the immune system attacking itself. What it does do is, and it's nearly always with infections,
Mhm.
which are the primary source of new toxins that cause disease,
Mhm.
is either the infection itself as it's in the tissue, or the toxin as it gets inside a cell and does its damage, but then becomes um, part of the system. In other words, it doesn't do its deal and go. It stays there, basically forming a different new structure. The
Mm.
structure of your tissue plus the toxin. This in immunological terms they call haptens. You take something, bind it to something else, a hapten, and then it's something that your immune system no longer recognizes as you, and so it stimulates an immune response to make antibodies to deal with whatever this foreign substance is. Well, it's not a foreign substance. It's you, but with other stuff later on top. So then you develop, yes, in many ways, the immune system is mounting. It's not intending to mount a response against you, but it is in the process of mounting a response to this overall modified part of your tissue. And in
Wow.
point of fact, when we see back in my days with Dr. Huggins, 35 years ago, he would get the routine blood work with everybody. All right, you would get anti-nuclear antibodies.
Hmm.
Some people would have had lupus for a long time, others just have normal blood work. And I can't tell you how routine it was. I can't give you numbers, but I can say it was not unheard of that when somebody came in with an astronomical anti-nuclear antibody reading, which for people listening is what's associated with lupus and other autoimmune diseases like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
2 to 3 weeks later,
Mm.
after they had gotten out all their root canals, all their mercury fillings, treatment of the tonsils, uh, other infected teeth, when all the infection and all of the toxicity of the mouth had been removed, which was the routine with Dr. Huggins over a 2 week period, we would sometimes see that chronically elevated anti-nuclear body that was never touched come down to zero.
Wow. Well, and so that cleaning out that area, that tooth, releasing that, relieving of that toxic load,
That's
stopped the
right.
body from building the tissue response, and then the body was like able to heal.
Exactly. Correct.
Wow. Doc, and I'm not trying to get into a rabbit trail, but I was intrigued when you talked about your work with Dr. Huggins, and I went into a bit of the rabbit hole of like looking into like dental work, and I was really fascinated. You guys had discussed and for out there, I don't want people to think I'm trying to get too deep and over people's heads, but I'm saying that the teeth themselves, like the toxicities, I did not realize that like voltage, that you can measure voltage, and they when you talk about the electrons, I remember you guys were saying like if there's too much of a like a positive polarity or something like in the teeth around root canals, it literally shows you that the organ is sick too. Like the organ is in a detriment, probably already sick or having autoimmune. And that to me is really, really interesting.
Well, they have in biological dentistry a lot of dentists, and Dr. Huggins was aware of this too, that would clearly notice that an infection of a particular tooth, and I don't have the charts memorized, would more profoundly, particularly affect a certain organ system, the kidney
Mhm.
or the heart or something like that. The location of where the infection was. Now, I don't want to minimize that in any fashion, but I would just say is don't get wrapped up with where the tooth is located. If it's infected,
Oh,
it's got to come out. Yeah. If it's
okay.
infected, it got to come out. And of course, Weston Price, before Dr. Huggins, also showed the specificity of this toxicity, where he would extract root canals. Well, let me just say 100% of root canals are infected. We could go into that if you want or not. But all root canals are chronically infected, period, and end of story. And what uh, Dr. Price would take a tooth, a root canal tooth out of a patient who had neurologic disease, heart disease, kidney disease, you name it. And then he would subcutaneously tuck that tooth under the skin of a rabbit. And not only did the rabbit get the same medical syndrome as the person who gave the tooth up, but he would then take it out and sequentially put it in 30 consecutive rabbits, and they all got the same thing.
No way.
So, so the toxicity and the specificity. The toxicity is enormous, but there is a specificity too.
That is astounding, Doc. I mean, 30 consecutive. So when you find a tooth, when you found that much crud is in the body causing that much oxidation,
Right.
and you get that out, you could see a reduction in autoimmune. And would okay, so I'm not making a claim. So I'm not trying to say
Let
every
me just say this. You brought up a key point. It's not uncommon in Dr. Huntington's clinic where there'd be a target tooth, the root canal was coming out, and like the moment it comes out, the patient's eyes would flitter. I said, it's not possible that I'm feeling better already, is it?
did they say he was like, yes, it is
Yes, yes,
possible. It
yes,
is
yes.
possible.
Not only possible, the answer is yes.
So when they start to feel that they feel better that quickly because it took that much stress because your cells are I'm asking this doc, your cells
Sure.
are that intelligent. They know that quickly, like they know that they can heal and they are healing.
Well, toxins, depending on where they are, can act very rapidly. So if you immediately eliminate a toxin load on a sensitive tissue, it doesn't take long to. I mean, it's like if you have burned skin. All right, interesting about liposome. If you have
Mhm.
burned skin, sunburn. I
Yep.
did this many years ago. Red skin, and then and this is not designed for this. Okay, I'm not. It's not treated, but rather than ingest the liposome, put the liposome directly on the burned skin. And then myself with three others that were out on a little Caribbean vacation many moons ago, 100% of us had complete pain relief in less than an hour. And we're talking about severe red, super horrible sunburn that you stay hurting for a week to 10 days.
Yeah.
Not only that, the very next day, the areas that we put the liposomes on were normal colored skin again. So it took the burned cells that were not yet dead and put enough vitamin C inside the cell to normalize the oxidative stress and then allow the cell to recover.
That's so doc.
But I did all of that to make the point that you can get a very rapid symptomatic relief when you can relieve an ongoing toxic stress. Put it that way.
That's great. That's great, Doc. And so when you see like you can see immediate results because the cells are hungry for it, and since it assimilates so well into the cell
That's right.
with the liposomal structure it goes.
Right.
And I love when we talk about vitamin C, and that leads me into like with autoimmune and people out there that have the lupus, they have RA, they've got different types like thyroiditis. When with that tissue, like that aberrant tissue being built by an infection, by something that's causing this issue where your body's starting to attack that particular tissue,
Right.
when you start to use different types of liposomal, I know that's a first step and that's a heads up. I mean, a step ahead. Do you find that different, like glutathione, like one of the things people have asked me about autoimmune when they come into the clinic, they really are very, very intrigued by the action of glutathione. And then there's this big talk about should I use reduced glutathione? Should I use liposomal glutathione? And what's your take about those different forms and the effects of glutathione?
Well, we know a lot, or we've seen a lot of people using intravenous glutathione for some time.
Hmm.
And I know in some cases of Parkinson's, I believe it is, they showed quick reduction in tremors and in the pill rolling tremors, showing that there was a clear effect there. And then sort of glutathione took off on that. And one thing that was never done, and I encourage anybody who is going to the trouble of getting glutathione in their IVs to help alleviate their neurological syndrome, which it will do, it has done, consider getting on the Live On Labs liposomal glutathione orally instead. Why? Why do I say that? Well, when you take glutathione intravenously, glutathione is a tripeptide, 3 amino acids connected together. The moment it gets into the bloodstream, you have proteases that promptly break it down into 3 separate amino acids. So even though you gave intact glutathione IV, momentarily, you just have 3 different amino acids circulating in the blood. Now, why is that significant? Well, remember what I said about energy consumption.
Hmm.
If you have liposome encapsulated glutathione, the live-on form that I told you about, you can get it into the cell intact without the consumption of energy. That's number one.
Hmm.
What happens if you take glutathione intravenously? Well, you immediately have 3 amino acids. Now what happens? Each one of those amino acids separately has an ATP-dependent uptake mechanism. So you consume ATP 3 times to get all 3 amino acids in there. And once inside there, you consume ATP 2 more times to activate the enzymes that put the 3 amino acids together to form a new glutathione molecule. So even though you took the glutathione intravenously, you consumed energy at 5 separate steps compared to the live-on glutathione that consumed nothing.
Wow, I'm writing this down, Doc. And so it requires more ATP, more
Right.
energy molecules
Each
to
each
process
each
it.
amino acid has its own ATP-dependent uptake mechanism inside the cell. So you had to consume energy to get it in there.
Oh my goodness. And so,
And just like vitamin C, I talk a lot about ATP too. They go hand in hand. You can't really have perfectly normal levels of one and horrible levels of the other. But those are the two goals. As much vitamin C inside your cell as you can, and as much ATP, because ATP is your energy delivering molecule. You get those two levels normalized chronically, you've got a normal cell, and the cells that are normal, it's a normal tissue, normal person.
that's so when we have like you'll see a cell return to health because, like you said, you're not utilized or taking away so much energy. You're actually putting
Right.
it in. And when we have glutathione, like when it's called one of the master antioxidants, one of the I've read some old biochemistry books, and I've heard you say this too before that one of glutathione's ways it gets produced properly or how it can be absorbed properly too is that you have proper liver action, liver enzymes, liver methylation, and we're talking about B's, vitamin B's, and liposomal B's. Is Is that a good prerequisite to help with glutathione? I know the liposome will help it absorb readily, but do you like to add in Bs to everybody, like liposomal?
You know, I'm not trying to be dismissive of the question at all. I mean, we have thousands of supplements,
Yep.
and nearly all of them are positive and have a positive impact.
Hmm.
And uh, this is where, and the Reardon Clinic does this. I think if you're going to look into broader supplementation, considering it's expensive and everything else, go to the expense of doing some um, nutrient nutrient level testing. You
Mm.
can see things that you're deficient in, things you're not deficient in. I mean, the B vitamins are extremely important. I mean, vitamin B3, that's niacin, okay, directly promotes the NAD production inside your body, inside your brain.
Mhm.
Riboflavin B2 is critical for helping fuel the electron transport chain to make ATP. They're all important, but what I end up finding myself doing is, especially in our world of destroyed economics, I mean, people write me from around the world.
Mhm.
What should I do? What should I take? You know, if I give them a list of 20 supplements, they're not going to take any.
Mhm.
Okay. They're just going to go, poof, sorry I asked. So, uh, so with that in mind, I put together what I call my Super 8 supplements,
Oh.
which I'm seeing phenomenal results with. Okay. Well, over the past 2 years, people, these, and I'll tell you why. The first four are those that positively impact negative calcium metabolism. In other words, they bring elevated calcium levels inside your cells down.
Mhm.
And that's important because any cell with increased oxidative stress has increased calcium, no exception. If you increase the calcium inside the cell, you increase the oxidative stress. You bring the calcium down, you lower the oxidative stress. It's that clear cut.
Yep.
So those four are vitamin C, magnesium, which is the direct antidote to getting calcium levels down. That's why it's important. Vitamin D and vitamin K. All of those work together to help normalize calcium levels inside the cell as possible.
Mm.
Then you have the other four. The other four are the big four on the electron transport chain. What is that?
Mhm.
That's the sequence of chemical reactions inside the mitochondria that takes you from the first step to the fourth step where you start producing ATP. It's an electron shuttle, electron transport. So, what fuels the electron transport chain? Well, what fuels the electron transport chain is niacin or niacinamide. It's the
Mhm.
first step, and large doses of niacinamide get NAD levels up. And I'm sure you know these days, NAD is phenomenal. It's just that NAD is expensive.
Mhm.
And I'm not anybody that wants to spend the money to buy it as a supplement or take it as an IV, great, but it's not the only way to do it, and it's not the most economic way of doing it.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes.
Dr. Abram Hofford
Offered.
in the 1960s, and I'm choosing my words carefully, with 7 to 8 grams of vitamin C a day, along with 3, 4, 5, 6 grams a day of niacin or niacinamide. Niacinamide is very similar to niacin.
Mhm.
He would completely cure the majority of chronic schizophrenic patients he treated.
Really?
All right. I mean, I mean, I'm not picking on him because so much of modern medicine is screwed out beyond comparison, but the psychiatry is a particular mess. I mean,
Yes.
I haven't had many, but I've had people call in about they're severely autistic or this, that, or the other. And I say, start them on this and push the niacin and niacin as high as they can. And they're coming around and they're coming because you got to remember if you can cure or completely reverse chronic schizophrenia, that's the ultimate in a mental CNS disease. You're going to make everything else better. You're going to take care of depression, take care of all these other things without a doubt. So Niacin, niacinamide. Then number 2 is, because I remember it's electron transport chain, is riboflavin. Riboflavin is vitamin B2,
Hmm.
and it helps support the flavin adenine dinucleotide to continue the transport. And the thing is dose too. You take a multivitamin, multimineral, they might put 4 or 5 milligrams of riboflavin in there when you should be supplementing 400 milligrams. Okay, so uh, I'm not against multivitamins and multiminerals, except to the degree that it convinces so many people they've done all they need to do.
Yes.
And all they've done is give themselves a little smattering of something good. And in many cases, they haven't even scraped the tip of the iceberg in terms of how much good can be done. The third step is coenzyme Q10. That's probably the priciest part of the supplementation. I encourage taking 600 to 1,000 milligrams a day, but there's really no downside to getting your coenzyme Q level up except for expense. And then finally, methylene blue, stage number 4. Methylene blue is able to uniquely bypass those first 3 steps and get a large amount of ATP generated just on its own. But when you put those 4 together along with the other 4, the thing is, and I recommend it for just, not just, I recommend it for everything. Why? Because these are 8 things that are working to, in synergy, normalize the oxidative stress in every molecule in the body. And therefore, it makes everything better. And that's been the exact, I mean, oh, my leg hurts. Oh, I'm having a problem with my vision. Oh, I have this. Oh, I have that. They all get better. I'm sure somebody hasn't gotten better, but they all get better if they really stick to the supplement regimen uh, and do the other obvious things. I mean, if somebody has, they'll get my books or something like that, and they just don't want to do anything about the root canals, and they don't want to do this. I mean, so, Dr. Huggins said a long time ago when he was talking about toxins and oxidation and damage, and of course, we talk about giving vitamin C and everything like that. And he said to me, Tom, I said, yes, sir. He said, remember that you can't, oh God, I'm screwed by you can't dry off while you're still in the shower. Okay. So until you're willing to be the detective, go out, find the new ongoing brand new toxin sources, you're spinning your wheels. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you still won't get some benefit from massive quality supplementation, but you're missing the bear in the room. You're missing the elephant in the room. If you don't say, hey, look, I hate the dentist. It's all miserable experiences. Forget about it. If you've got an infected tooth, it's got to go.
Gotcha. That is, to me, when you're talking about like niacinamide and methylene blue, with your top 8, I want everybody out there to hear when you're talking about how well it's helped cognitive function. That alone is astounding to me. I mean, that you could see where that in the world of that kind of mental and physically mental fatigue, basically, that it can help. So, Doc, when you take these, people are out there gonna, I love this. Do you try to do like with the liposome or with the vitamin D, vitamin K? Do you just put it into seriously like individually? You just put them into like a little
Oh, yeah. No,
soda
you put
water.
them all together.
Yep,
Yeah, no
just put it
problem. No
together.
problem.
Okay. And with methylene blue, what is? I mean, I love to ask because one of my friends introduced me to methylene blue, and this was 4 or 5 years ago. One of my friends who's always been very studious. I mean, he's one of my close buddies. He's like one of the nerdy guys I know in my life, and he would tell me
Mhm.
about methylene blue. And you were talking about it a long time ago, and he told me about some methylene blue a long time ago, and I was like, well, I'm kind of I'm not a skeptic, doc, but sometimes I am like, well, let's see how it goes. But
Sure.
what's your favorite brand? I mean, do you have a favorite brand? I just need to know because, like, I mean, or is it just you finding good ones
Well,
online?
I mean, some people say, well, is that a good brand or bad? I mean, I don't do quality control. I don't know what goes on behind closed doors where they manufacture these substances and they label it. All I can tell you is what you're looking for is, well, when it's in liquid form, you're looking for a 1% solution, okay? And you're looking for it to be either USP or pharmaceutical grade. It's
Okay.
got to be USP or pharmaceutical grade. Because it's a dye, and there's a lot of different things you could do with it when you're not concerned about the quality of or the purity of the product. It'll still serve well as a dye, whether it's got some contaminants in it or not. So you have to look for the USP or pharmaceutical grade.
USP or pharmaceutical. And so with this, with niacinamide and riboflavin, I think that it's astounding to me that we often miss in longevity, like in the past, about the importance of B2 and B3, like those special forms of vitamin B. And I've had some people have some discussions about where certain types of foods, like the way they produced food in our country, how they stripped a lot of the food sources of these types of nutrients, and you would start to see kids with behavioral issues, and they weren't having, stronger cognitive function. And I'm glad these things are coming back on the rise, especially in natural health. With this,
It's
so
kind of funny. They take a natural food product and then strip all the stuff out of it and then sell it to you and then sell you what they stripped out of it, like as wheat germ.
yeah.
Why don't you just leave it in the product to begin with?
That I don't understand it either because when Weston Price, when reading his books, I say that long ago, it was back in history. I mean, he was a very smart man, and he wrote such great
Incredible.
stuff, and I just don't understand why they wouldn't follow it. But
You
just
know why they don't follow it?
follow the money, follow the money.
I mean,
It
stop cutting traditional dentists and doctors any slack at all.
mm,
Now, I'm not saying 100%, but I'm saying, in my opinion, the substantial majority of them, it's
yes.
only the money that matters. I'm sorry.
Doc, I see your point. I think that whenever we see some of these processes and they don't make any sense to me, and I think, why would they do that? There's usually some company or something that's backing somebody else with a lot of money involved,
And
basically.
so many times, if it's not an active, it's not like they say, well, I'm going to do this, but I know it's bad for them, but I'll do it anyway. No, instead, they buffer themselves with meaningless editorials by their constituent organizations, and most importantly, refuse to subject themselves to actually evaluating sound literature on the subject. So,
Wow.
so it's not as heinous as saying this is poison and I'm going to give it to them.
Mhm.
But it's like, some people say that's poison, but everybody else uses it, so I'm going to use it too. And I'm not going to go to the effort on my own, due diligence, do research, and see what the data is on that.
Yes, yes. Most people wouldn't do the due diligence, and
Yeah.
with this now, like we're having more the I guess emphasis of looking into longevity. But the thing that I find comforting is that doctors like yourself and a few other docs I love to watch and follow, you guys have been talking about this for a very long time, honestly. And did you ever, I mean, maybe not, but did you ever catch any type of like, not say criticism, but people thought that was like you talking about longevity a long time ago. Did you ever have any critics?
Not to my face. And not because I'm Arnold Schwarzenegger and I'm going to bust somebody between the eyes, but when they actually look out the side of their eye at maybe a YouTube or a podcast or this, that, or the other,
Mm,
it's very clear to me that they realize I know what the hell I'm talking about and that it's all scientifically founded. So all they're going to gain by trying to make a point directly to my face is I'll turn it around on them in a nice fashion, of course, and make them
mhm.
look like an ass.
That's true. I love it, Doc. So now with you teaching about this, like, and you're creating a new book, I love how you break down nutrients. You do it really well, and I want everybody out there. And I don't say it because he's on the podcast, but you write in a way that it's very easy to understand. You can tell you know what you're talking about, but it's easy to understand. What's the new book about?
The book is entitled The Only Cause of Disease.
Mm.
Okay. And it goes back to the fact I was previously going to call it Toxins Cause All Disease, but I thought it was more intriguing to say the only cause of disease. And of course, as we just discussed, the only cause of disease is excess oxidation. And the only thing that causes that excess oxidation are toxins. And
Mm.
everything flows from that. Everything flows from that. It's not, it would seem to somebody looking at this who for whatever reason knew my life history would say, well, this was just a natural evolution. Well, it was a natural evolution, but one that I did not preordain. I mean, I started with Dr. Huggins, saw dental toxicity, benefits of IV vitamin C, other supplements, uh, and a few other things that I came into. And then, along with some other things that I don't have time to go to that are in the book about the relationship between hydrocortisone and vitamin C. And finally, to the final point, it was almost like the circle completed itself. To the final point, which is health is a normal intracellular level of vitamin C, period.
Wow. I got to write that down. Health is a natural, okay, level of vitamin C and intracellular. Okay, doc, that is,
And with that in mind, not that it's always easy, that's how you construct your treatment protocols. What in my treatment protocol is furthering my goal of getting vitamin C levels inside the cells at their optimal rate, to their optimal degree?
mm,
And that's it's that complex. It's that simple.
I know I'm always cautious about your time because we always, when we get close, I love to keep talking, doc. This is like, for me, it's like going to the candy store. I get to get all this good information. I'm writing so much down, putting it in my computer and in my on my notes. With this, one of the things, Doc, and again, I'm not trying say I know tons about vitamin C, but I will sometimes I'll do like gut checks, like labs, and we'll do like different types
Sure.
of gut zoomers and neurological zoomers. And one of the things that's really astounding to me for everybody out there is you'll find usually people that will have very low intracellular vitamin C, and it is not uncommon now when people have really bad infections. I know you know this, doc, but they'll have horrible amounts of fungus, some bad bacteria like Clostridium, some people have Lyme disease, and they'll have such bad vitamin C, and also they'll have alarming inhibitions of like intrinsic factors, like their stomach gets really corroded, I guess, and they start to get really like injured stomach, but their vitamin C levels are so low, like people who are chronically sick. And I've seen when people start doing more vitamin C and they start healing their gut, they do get better quicker.
No question. No, it's really no exceptions to the rule. I mean, there might be some variation, but there's no exception.
Well, Doc, I can't wait till the book comes out. When is it coming out? Was it coming out soon?
It should be going to the press in the next week or two. So however long the publishing company takes.
Okay. No, I would love, we'll keep an eye on it.
Everything is done.
By the time this comes out, Doc, if we can, Christy, she's listening, we can have it all tagged so that we can put it out there. And then
Okay.
if we do that,
Probably Christy could contact John.
yeah,
John
yeah. So we can get a hold of John Carpenter and we can test John, and then we can get John to get us, and also too like an image. And if we get of the book and we put it on my stories too. Okay.
Okay.
So I want everybody to
Sounds
be
good.
there. And Doc, I just want to keep you coming back on if you can intermittently, if you wouldn't mind, because I do love to talk about this and about and there's so much more. You have so much knowledge. So, um, Doc, where can they find you? I know that you can go on your website, but can you tell everybody your website and your Instagram feed or your social media
Sure.
feeds?
TomLedyMD.com. TomLedyV is in Victor, YMD.com.
Mm-hmm.
And my Instagram is at Dr. Thomas Weedy.
Oh, this is great, Doc. I've got some good.
Oh, and I don't hide. I don't do consultations, but I'm out. I help people. So I freely give out my email too, for what you have. TELEDMD at yahoo.com.
Oh, okay. We'll put that down there, Doc, too, in the caption. And I got some good nuggets here that I could put in the caption, like some of the notes. That's why I write notes because I like to put it in our caption so people know like what they're getting to in the
Right.
podcast. Okay, Doc, this is going to be great. And I want everybody out there that's listening too that to visit Dr. Levy's website, his Instagram feed. Also, remember that Live On Labs has such great products. I use them daily. I have them in my pantry. You ought to see my pantry, Doc. It's just like, proteins and supplements. But the thing I love about Live On is like it's so easy, so quick, and it absorbs readily. And I'm telling you, it gives you a boost of energy. And I'm so thankful that you took the time to come on the show all the way from Colombia. Doc, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you.
My pleasure. Great being here.
All right, everybody, from the Ancient Health Podcast, thank you so much. Visit Dr. Tom Levy. And from all of us here, thank you so much. Have a blessed day.